I want to ask you something uncomfortable. Have you become a chronic complainer about your current job situation? How long have you been repeating the same negative thoughts, the same frustrations, the same conversations with the same characters, the same exhale at the end of the week when you finally close your laptop and pour the wine? Maybe it's your boss. Maybe it's the culture. Maybe it's the fact that you're doing the work of three people and getting credit for none of it. Here's what I want you to consider. That complaint, the one you've been carrying for 6 months, 2 years, or however longer, it's not just frustration. It's a distress signal. The issue isn't that the situation hasn't changed. It's because you haven't decided to choose differently. If you're starting to feel like a negative ball of energy, find yourself constantly complaining or shit-talking your job, team, projects, or general circumstances, this episode is for you.
Welcome to the Bold Life School, the show that empowers you to elevate your life and to step into your full potential. I'm your host, Jamesyn, and this is where ambition meets authenticity, where you'll find the tools and inspiration to grow, evolve, and thrive. Each week, we dive into powerful topics that challenge the status quo, whether it's to break through limiting beliefs, navigate life's transitions, or embrace the bold moves that push you beyond your comfort zone. Now let's get into today's episode.
Welcome to the Bold Life School. I'm Jamesyn, career strategy advisor and founder of The Bold Life. Today, we're talking about complaining, when it's useful, when it's not, when it's costing you, and what it actually means when you can't stop doing it. I want to start by saying this isn't about judgment. The message is not that good people shouldn't have bad feelings or vent from time to time. In fact, what spurned this episode is a recent fall to the dark side that I had. I'd been feeling a certain type of way about something, and I finally let it be known. I had mixed feelings about sharing my thoughts because, on the one hand, it's important to me to maintain high standards, quality, consistency at work, and sometimes issues need to be called out. On the other hand, there's always a way to share feedback with grace, diplomacy, and problem solving in mind. I can't say I did my personal best in this situation. We all get caught up in emotions from time to time, but doing it wisely and strategically leads to better results. And that was the impetus for today's episode. Let's start with the number one problem I see happening with complainers. Rather than taking accountability, we tend to blame and play victim to circumstances. The thing you're complaining about, your manager, the company, the meeting that could have been an email, the team that keeps dropping the ball, these are the repeating patterns, but they're just facts. They're neutral. The circumstances aren't inherently good or bad. They simply are. If you're anything like me, you encounter many of these facts and circumstances on the daily. A lot of happenings, and we can't seem to hide from them. What makes it feel unbearable, what turns these facts into a source of our suffering, is the negative thoughts you're having about it. Here's how this works. You've got a circumstance or 5 that happen. Your brain assigns a thought to it. That thought creates a feeling, and those feelings drive your actions, or in many cases, inaction. And the action or the avoidance produces your results. So when you find yourself venting to your partner at 9 p.m. about the same thing you vented about last week, what's actually happening isn't that the circumstance is the problem. The people are going to people. The project timeline changes are going to keep changing. The delays are going to keep delaying. You know this. These are just facts. The realities of having a big girl job. The problem comes in when you repeat negative thoughts about these situations. You spin and spin in your beliefs, judgment, and feel wronged, resentful. frustration, or defeat. Here's where many of us go wrong. We want to blame the circumstances for our pain, but it's really just the way we've chosen to think about it that drives us into action. Narrating, venting, bitching and moaning, blaming, avoiding, not deciding to choose differently about life and what you can control. Wasting precious time and energy that you could be using to make change for yourself. If the complaints never lead to a new decision, a new choice for you, it's not problem solving. It's just a story you keep telling yourself over and over and over. So as long as you keep telling yourself the lie that the problem exists out there, that the situation, the person, the work environment is to blame, the story keeps you exactly where you are. We all need a reminder from time to time. You can't vent away the actual circumstances, but you can change them with your thoughts and your actions. Now, here's the thing I don't want you to miss. Having complaints isn't meaningless. In fact, it's some of the most important data you have. Because every complaint is a cry for help from your brain. Anger, disgust, disbelief, injustice, fear. Every complaint is your brain raising a career distress signal. And if you're new to the show, here's a quick recap. I break down 5 common career signals. The first is burnout. You've been carrying too much for too long. You're depleted in a way that a weekend can't fix anymore. This is like chronic exhaustion. The second is boundary overload. You've become everyone's solution. You're overfunctioning, overgiving, absorbing responsibility that was never yours to carry. The third is plateau. Your growth has stalled. You're not broken, but you're likely bored. The challenge is gone, and you know it. The fourth is misalignment. The role, the culture, the leadership, or the environment no longer fit who you've become. Misalignment usually means there's some type of conflict going on either internally or externally. And the fifth is outgrowing. You are simply ready for a bigger chapter, a different identity, a new level of challenge. This is about expansion. Here's what most women do. They assume the signal is burnout when it's actually something more specific. They assume they need rest when what they actually need is clarity and a decision, a change. They assume the problem is their workload or something out there when the real problem is that they've outgrown the room. It's easy to get caught up in your emotions and just diagnose it generally instead of learning what's really going on. Believe me, I've been there. And for me, the signal that it's time to go is when I find myself shifting internally from the excited, motivated problem solver, in other words, my best self, to resentful, exhausted grumbler, or my not so best self. The complaint is the starting point. So, what have you been complaining about repeatedly? Sit with it for a moment and ask yourself, which of these 5 signals may be underneath my complaints? Is it burnout? Is it boundary issues? Have you plateaued in your job? Are you just misaligned? Or have you simply outgrown your circumstances? The signal determines where to go next. But you've got to get your thoughts together to guide the way. Awareness is the key to unlock the decision. If you recognize yourself in multiple areas, the call is getting louder, I bet. I've been there, and it doesn't feel good. Now, if you can't put a finger on it, take my career burnout signals quiz. It'll take you 2 minutes and provide some insight into what might be going on. Link is in the show notes. Now, let's talk about what complaining at work is costing you when you're not using it as data. when you're not using it to choose differently, when you don't wise up to the distress signals and continue acting as if something is happening to you, not for you. Every time you walk into a room with a problem and no proposed solution, something happens. The energy gets sucked out of someone else's experience. You get labeled the complainer, the catty one, the gossip, the trauma or drama dumper, not always consciously and not always fairly. But perception is real, and it accumulates when you become that person. The person that seems to be taking energy instead of giving energy. And nobody likes being around that person, even when your complaint is valid, because we do have valid complaints. The perception may be that you're being petty, lacking empathy, or that you're not a team player. But there's a difference between the woman who raises a hard issue from time to time and the woman who is known for raising issues repeatedly. One builds credibility, the other erodes it. One brings solutions. The other is too busy living in her volatile emotional life that she hasn't considered doing something about it herself. I want to be clear. I'm not asking you to be silent. I'm not asking you to tolerate what shouldn't be tolerated. I'm not suggesting you perform contentment for the benefit of people who are not protecting your best interests. What I am saying is that how you show up with a problem matters. And the woman who earns a seat at the table is the woman who has learned to translate her frustrations into strategic, emotionally regulated communication and solutions. That is a skill that requires a ton of reflection, practice, making mistakes, coaching and feedback, self-love, and resilience. So give yourself a break during the process. It doesn't happen overnight. So here's what strategic communication looks like in practice. You've got a problem at work. First, identify the problem clearly. Not the feeling about it or judgment, the actual factual problem. Remember, the circumstance is neutral, so strip out the emotional charge and name what is actually happening. The behavior, just the facts of the matter. Second, assess the stakes. Who is affected by this and how? What is the cost to the team, to the work, to the org, if this doesn't change? Keep this as logical as possible. Third, determine who actually needs to hear about this. Not who you want to vent to, not who's around at the time when you're feeling charged. Who has the authority or the responsibility to act on it? Are you talking to the person involved or talking around the person who could help create change? A lot of times we vent and complain to everyone but the person we have the problem with. Because why? Well, it's easier to complain or gossip than it is to confront the real issue. Fourth, come with a proposed solution, or at minimum, a proposed process for getting to one. You don't have to have all the answers, but showing up with nothing except the problem signals that you want someone else to carry it. And that's not accountability. And fifth, know when to escalate and when to exit, because sometimes the answer to the signals that keep coming up for you isn't a better conversation or more communication. Sometimes the patterns are simply bigger than you, uncontrollable, or maybe you just no longer want to have skin in that game. Maybe you're simply misaligned or ready for a change. Sometimes it's a decision to exit. Managing your thoughts, feelings, and your actions is an ongoing commitment. It isn't easy, but this is how leadership identity gets built. This is how confidence and self-trust are built when you listen to your signals. Not by staying quiet, but by learning to speak in a language that actually moves things forward for you, for others, and in a way that you can feel proud of. Here's the part of the conversation I most want you to sit with. If you've been naming the same frustration for months and nothing's changed, I want you to consider the possibility that the problem isn't in the workplace. It's not out there. The problem is that you're using the complaint to avoid making a decision that you can control. Your boundaries, your limits, your environment, your future. Chronic complaining is one of the most effective ways to stay in ambiguity without committing to a direction or a decision. As long as you're focused on what's wrong, you don't have to answer the harder question, what do I actually want instead? So here's the question I want you to think about. If your situation remains exactly the same over the next 12 months, what would you decide to do differently? That answer, it's already in you. The complaints are just a distress signal that something needs to change. Topics like this are exactly what the Bold Life was built for. There are two ways to work together. Red Chair Sessions is private, call-free, strategic advisement and coaching. You submit your situation to me via the call-free messaging platform, and I give back targeted strategic guidance. The Red Chair is great for those who want feedback in an ongoing manner at the time of need. They don't want weekly sessions or Zoom calls, while one-on-one career coaching is a more traditional engagement. 12 weekly sessions where we move through elements of the Bold Life career reinvention framework custom to you. The link for both is in the show notes. That's all I have for today. I'll see you next time. Stay bold.
If you enjoyed today's episode, head over to theboldlife.coach for more resources, join our community, and start living your boldest life today.